my God, this is beautiful. Hi, Sam Smith.
Hi, Zach. How are you?
I'm doing great. I mean, how are
Good.
you? I'm looking at a photo of you in starfish position on the floor of your studio.
That was yesterday, yeah.
Curious, what fuels this exhaustion? Is it emotional exhaustion? Is it physical work exhaustion?
Yesterday, that was just mental exhaustion, just like hearing a song that you've written just again and again and again and again is pretty tiring. But it was. I'm in a really good space musically. I'm feeling. I'm really excited about this next record. Actually, really excited.
What is fueling the excitement for this album, at least compared to the other ones? Why is this excitement different?
I feel like I just feel like I have recently that I've shown people a side of me which I normally keep for myself or for my family and friends, and I showed everyone it, and everyone loved it, and I feel like it's almost given me permission to kind of do what I've always dreamed of doing, but I've always been scared to do, which is pop music. I love pop music so much, and I know I've always made pop music, but the music I've made in the past is, I think, lent to a more, a more acousticy, soulful version of pop music, which I also love. But just being able to be out and out pop recently has made me feel really good and happy.
By the way, very evident in How Do You Sleep, in the music video and the dancing, which, by the way, flawless. But the thing I got to respect you on is the lyrical integrity remains the same. You're still telling an honest and true story, right?
Oh, thank you. Yes, yeah, I am throughout everything, and I mean, I've had a tough year, if I'm honest. I found the last year quite challenging at times. I've been through a breakup and stuff, which sadly always helps. But I have so much to speak about in my music still. I think my music will always be honest. Will always be honest in that way. But just being able to dance and stuff is just amazing.
But like, from that heartbreak, obviously, just my connection between the two records that we've gotten so far that are attached, I think, or I'm assuming, are attached to the third album, Dancing with a Stranger and How Do You Sleep, just off the titles alone, it sounds like the beginning stages of a relationship, or the stages of a relationship between those two records.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that in the Lonely Hour, people really took that album and they ran with it, and they didn't. I said from the very beginning what that album was about, and in the Lonely Hour, I was in love with a straight man for 3 years, and we did not. It wasn't a relationship at all. It was purely unrequited love. My second album, I'd been in a relationship with someone for a few months. It wasn't a proper relationship. It was, again, more of an album of longing for that feeling of being in a relationship. Whereas this album, Dancing with a Stranger and How Do You Sleep, are about my first ever relationship that I've had, the first proper relationship. So the lyrics and the music, I think, is just probably sounding way more, more lived in, because I just feel way more experienced when it's coming to these feelings and when it comes to love.
Which, by the way, is really special. And no matter how a relationship turns out, the fact that you can look to these songs or listen to these songs and be transported back to these chapters in your life, it's pretty cool.
Completely amazing. And like Dancing with a Stranger, I wrote that song about 3.5 weeks after my breakup, and I was like on the floor heartbroken. Like, I was in a really bad place. But that song was pure therapy for me.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to do was write a sad, ballad. And Dancing with a Stranger was almost like this way of escaping and writing something that I could dance to but also cry to.
Healing. It has to be.
Yeah. I'm loving it.
So is that how you created this album? Were these songs created in very close proximity to the events that inspired them, or did you live a bunch of life and then dissect it and then craft something?
I I can't write about something in the moment, really. It has to be afterwards. It has to be looking back on something for me. I don't know why, but, towards the end of last year, after I wrote Promises with Calvin Harris, I just naturally started to get back into the studio, and I just started to write. And I caught this wind. I don't know what it was, but I just started riding this wave, and I literally haven't stopped writing since. Just constant writing, and it's just been. Maybe this will stop soon, and I'll never get this kind of flow going again. But I've had the best writing flow I've ever had in my life the last year.
But what's the? By the way, like just based on this brief conversation that we're having, what's the biggest difference between this year in your life and everything else? Honesty, relationship, living life, evolving as a human.
And I think my gender situation as well has allowed me to go into these rooms and I'd unforgivingly be myself. I also think, I'm in a very lucky situation. I have some success under my belt, and that gives me the freedom to play. If my albums hadn't done very well, I think I'd be feeling the wrath of people around me a little bit more, and I'd be panicking. It's really hard to be creative when you're feeling pressure.
Yeah.
And I felt a lot of pressure for my second album, and I don't feel, and the only pressure I feel right now is pressure on myself, and that's good pressure.
What fuels? Okay, one is it a little? Does it hurt you a little bit knowing that you have to have this success under your belt to live your truth publicly?
Yes, of course it does. Of course, I look back on my career when I started out, and I know full well that I probably stopped wearing what I wanted to wear at times. Because I was like, I want to be a pop star. I wanted that so bad since I was a kid, and I really wanted it. And there were certain times that I probably felt embarrassed to wear the things I wanted to wear in front of big rooms of people. And the suits I started to wear became little. I guess it became a form of armor for me for a few years. But the thing is, I was 21 when I became famous, and, I can't look back at that person and be sad. I've got to look back at that person and give them a hug, to be honest, because I think I dealt with a lot at 21.
100%. Yeah. By the way, like a lot personally, professionally. I mean, that's the thing. Like in that moment, do you feel like your growth as a human kind of stops for a second and you shift from like a human to just a commodity or a business or somebody who's solely focused on expanding their career?
Yeah, I think anyone who becomes famous, at whatever age, something stops. I see it in artists now that are just breaking out. Something does freeze. But on top of that, I'm queer, and when you're a queer person, you've got to remember that in school I didn't have boyfriends and girlfriends like everyone else. So I was from the age of 11, I came out when I was 10. So from the age of 11, I was dealing with very adult things when it came to bullying and things like that, which makes you emotionally grow up very quickly. But then I also was not experiencing the things that kids were experiencing as well. So when I hit 19 years old, I'd never ever experienced a relationship. So there's, I feel like when you become famous, all of your insecurities and all of your traumas really do come to the surface, because fame, is a trauma. So it's different for every single person, but it's really hard. And I also don't think that the support is there for people who become famous, because we're not allowed to moan about what we're going through, which is really tough sometimes.
And it also had to be. I mean, what sticks with me is from our last conversation, you have the ability to write records about other people. You're empathetic in that way. You can kind of lift yourself out of your shoes and into somebody else's. But it must also be hard as an artist to not speak your truth in the music you put out there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've actually felt like I always spoke my truth. You know, all of those songs in the Lonely Hour were me speaking my truth. It was more visually, actually. It was more the way I moved on stage. It was, which I think is just as important as the music, I guess, isn't it? It's how you're presenting the music. But you know, there has been times where I've definitely felt silenced, I think.
How freeing was it to dance in the How Do You Sleep music video, which the choreography is fucking stellar, bro. It's so good.
Paris smashed it. It was absolutely petrifying. About the week of rehearsals for the video, I was, I remember before that first rehearsal with Paris, I was like seconds away from having a panic attack before I even walked in the room because my anxiety was so high. But once I got into the room and started dancing, I just felt this incredible freedom, and being on set and shooting the video and dancing like that was a feeling. It felt like I'd won Grammys again. It was the exact same feeling as when I won those Grammys. I felt completely myself and unforgivingly myself, and it was really, really beautiful. But then as soon as I stopped dancing, I felt incredibly insecure, and I was panicking, wondering whether it was good or bad.
So, and how do you know? What is your validation? Who comes to you and tells you that was amazing? Who in your life?
I've got beautiful management, actually, beautiful management who really, really support everything I do, and an incredible family who watched it and they just said it was amazing, and I'm so lucky to have those people around me. If I didn't have those people around me, then I just wouldn't be in this place. They make me feel very safe.
They're empowering you to be you. And by the way, like, that's what produces the best stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that's the same for everyone in this world, you know. It's just being yourself is the hardest thing to do, actually, in a world where, you know, you're never good enough. You know, on social media and all these things, you're constantly being told you're not good enough, and to say that you are enough to yourself is a revolution in itself, I think, actually.
100%. And for doing what you just said, I applaud you and I thank you, because you living your truth and accepting who you are and embracing who you are and empowering yourself, it does a lot of good in this world, and it brings it shines an incredible light on something that needs to be spoken about, because once it's spoken about, it's accepted and it's loved. And yeah, you're really ushering in and one of the ushers of an incredible time in our world. So I thank you for your honesty.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me. Seriously.
But it really is the truth. And as somebody as somebody who's queer myself, thank you.
You're one of us. Are you single?
Yeah, and I'm looking. I'm a 26-year-old virgin, so I very much identify with.
I really feel like we're made for each other.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, I very much identify with what you were talking about regarding, you know, just growing up and not having a relationship and all the legitimate relationship stuff coming later in life. You know,
yeah,
it's like
it's hard. It's hard, but also it means that we're timeless, babe. We're timeless.
Louder. I'm gonna write that everywhere I look. Timeless. You are timeless, by the way. And the one thing I was thinking about too, that we talked about the last time, you making the move into poppier music, your voice is a genre. You as an individual are a genre. You really transcend any and all style of music. So it's
thank you so much.
Yeah. It's wild to think about the fact that these records have, I don't know, they're really good. They make me move, they make me dance, and they make me feel.
I really hope you like the rest of them. I really do. I hope I haven't shot my load too soon.
Nah, I think you're okay. When's the album coming? Do we have a date?
I have a date, yeah. No, I don't actually have a date. I have a month.
Oh. Now, is that like is that a public deadline or a you deadline? It needs to be done by this month so we could, you know?
I think that's like it's like an agreed on deadline with the labels and everything. Like, we're gonna go for this month, and we normally live by it.
Okay, before 2020 or after?
After.
Got it. Sam Smith, appreciate you deeply. Thank you for the time and energy.
Thank you so much. It's lovely speaking to you, honestly. Really refreshing. Thank you.
Thank you. It really means a lot. Hopefully we'll do it again.
Yeah, I'd love that.
All right.
Have a beautiful day.
Peace and love.
Bye, bye, bye.
Bye.